Okay, as promised, the boots. And the one thing I want to say about boots and socks and liners and other articles that help you tailor fit to your particular foot and your particular need, whether you're a deer or an elk hunter or an upland bird hunter, or you just take nice long walks in the woods, or you walk the malls, whatever the case may be. Um, just like anything else, don't settle for what comes in the box. You got options. One of the the newest style of boots these days are what we're calling the one-piece boot, where you've got a molded outer boot that is one piece, and then it is glued to the last and that sort of thing. That's all the rage, and there are several companies making those boots. We all have our favorites, but in all honesty, I cannot wear the Clam Sub-Zero boot, or that would be on the table for sure. I've expressed my love for Clam Outdoor products and my comfort with them and my reliability with them. And Thane with a Y Jensen will tell you about 4 years ago, when Clam first came out with their Sub-Zero one-piece boot, I went through the warehouse with him and tried on about 7 pairs of boots, and every single one of them just cut across the top of my foot to the point where it just wasn't going to work for me. And that's the way it is. Not everything is going to work for everybody. So I bet my Western guys have probably even taken a couple of bets. My Idaho boys and some of them, I bet there's a pack boot in there. I bet he's got a pack boot in there. So let's start with the pack boot. Now we're talking a different pack style boot than the old Sorrels or Sorels or whatever you want to call them. This is what's known as a mountain pack boot or a walking pack, PAC, if you're going to do some searching online. And I'm going to focus on my right side here because my right foot, the one I broke in a car wreck when I was quite young, has been the foot that's always given me trouble, whether I was walking a mail route or elk hunting in Montana, whatever the case may be. This particular boot is made by Hoffman's out of Idaho. And in 2018, 2019, I was getting back into Montana elk hunting after a few years away from it, because it was really, my body just wasn't holding up to it. But in 2019, I went looking for a good pack boot again. My original introduction to pack boots was through Schnee's in Bozeman. The Postal Service used to give us still does, but a uniform allotment for uniformed mail carriers. And we could actually take part of that allotment and go down to the local Schnee's store right there on Main Street in Bozeman and buy a pair of Schnee's packs. And one of the first things that the guys told me when I got to Bozeman, this would have been 1994 when I transferred there. Now, I came out of Seattle. I was a mailman, city delivery postman south of Seattle. So I didn't have a lot of warm clothes when I got to Bozeman. And that was in late September, and getting ready to walk on into a pretty wild winter, and my vest and my Brookfield shoes were definitely not going to get me. And I was planning on walking. I bought a pair of the old style Sorels, and the boys kind of told me, you're going to hate them. They'll keep your feet warm until they don't, and then you'll hate them, and they're bricks. So that's my background with a Western pack boot. In 2019, when I decided to get into another pair of these, I started looking at, of course, the Schnee's boots, the Hoffman boots, and there's another one that's made there in Idaho, I believe, and the name kind of escapes me for now, but they all build pretty much the same boot. Now, the Hoffman boot buys their bottoms out of Taiwan. You won't hardly find, I don't know, maybe back east, I can never remember the name of it, LL Bean. That's probably where this boot originated, with the Bean boot, but modified for heavier Western use. anyway, I was looking at the prices and how they were built and the customer reviews and how many people have been buying a certain boot for so long. You know, research. Anyway, settled on the Hoffman boot, and I'm actually thrilled that I did. So this is the 12-inch mountain hiker, I believe is exactly what it's called, or maybe it's the elk hunter or whatever. They all got their names for them. But I settled on the 12-inch rather than the 14-inch because I don't have a very long leg, if you haven't noticed. And I just was afraid that 14-inch was going to come up a little too high on me. And then if the liner starts shifting around a little bit, that could be bothersome. And I'm super glad I went with the 12-inch because you can see that liner is sticking up just a little bit above the boot. You know, they make a 14-inch liner. If you want to trim it down, trim it down. But this boot is a powerhouse as far as I'm concerned. And I don't have a lot of hours and miles on this boot, but I've got enough, and it's holding up great. I went with this is like a 4th generation air bob type sole. It's great on uneven terrain, and it's soft. But this is a rebuildable boot, just like my Schnee's boots were. In fact, my son now has my Schnee's boots from way back in the day because my foot just kind of got weird and they just didn't fit me right anymore. But I had them resoled right before I gave them to him, and he'll never wear them out, I promise. So the great thing about a Western pack boot is the ability to change the laces. You know, you can go one and skip, or you can, you know, crisscross every single one if you want to, but you've got some options for this. Now, I may have mentioned this in an earlier video, I'm not sure, but on early ice, when there's a real good chance that maybe you just step through up to your knee on the shoreline, this is a boot that you can lace down tight, and you're not going to get a lot of water inside the boot immediately. Versus some of these other boots that, you know, they're easy to get on and off, but you can't really cinch them down. There's a drawstring. Most of them have a drawstring. But as you're walking and flexing, you're just not going to get that seal around your feet like you will with a walking boot. So, again, you buy these with a little extra space so you can adjust for your sock fit. And in my case, I buy them with a little extra space because in my right boot, I've got a little heel lift in the one side because crooked man's got a little bit of a tilt to him sometimes when he walks. So it's nice to be able to tailor and contour either boot to your exact foot. And that's where I really enjoy this boot. Yeah, it's heavy. Yeah, you got to take them out and dry out the liner and that sort of thing. But it's no different than with these one-piece boots. You take that liner out, and you're going to see moisture in the bottom of that boot every day. So, and if you don't dry them out, if you don't remove the liner and dry the liner out and swab out the inside of the boot, or just stuff some newspaper in there to get that moisture out of there, because it's a one-piece rubber boot basically that you're putting on your foot and filling it in with the wool liners or what have you. In the Hoffman boot today, I've got it set up with a heavier lining. They offer two options. One's a little bit lighter liner. This is Thinsulate. You'll see a little bit different. Green label is the extra insulated. I want to say it's 1200 rating on the scale, and this is a 6 or an 800. Again, if you're looking for a pair of boots and you go shopping, make sure you're aware of every single option that's available and why they offer that option. So again, Hoffman, great family company out of Idaho. They're still doing it the old-fashioned way, and very pleased with the price point. The custom options that they offer as well. This is just an off-the-rack boot, and I just love it. I mean, honestly, I have got these boots set up, tweaked and tailored to my liking, and I can walk all day in these. And I have spent a lot of time out here in the woods. I probably wore this boot all the time in my, before we really started piling up snow, and then switched over to the lighter weight boot that we'll get into next. Now, a lot of you know that I have about 8 years ago, discovered the Nordman boot. Nordman. This is out of Eastern Europe, along with the Norfin. And the Norfin is very popular. They set up a good distribution network here in the States. Well, better than the Nordman did. These were available through Akara for a while. And that was a Russian company that was bringing jigs and other things into the States. And a lot of you that follow Team USA or follow the major tournaments are aware with Akara and Nordman, and of course now Norfin. And you talk to anybody that wears the Norfin boot, and they'll tell you that's the best boot out there. Well, it's the best boot for them out there. For me, or maybe they didn't know about the Nordman and would have bought this. But anyway, these days in ice fishing, these one-piece molded boots that are rubber on the inside, unless you cut it across the, nick it with an auger or something like that, they are honestly, truly waterproof. But the moisture can't get out then either. This one here, in fact, just for example, it's all one-piece rubber inside there. This probably isn't going to work at all, but and so I have 2 of these here. So which tells you that which ones I'm wearing every day when the weather gets nasty and you're stepping in puddles and slush and that sort of thing. So I just picked up this pair, or maybe this pair, within the last year because Akara is no longer distributing in the U.S. and I'm not even sure they're active in Europe. But you go to the shows, you do a little research online. Please don't start another, what's the best boot? There's enough information out there. You don't have to ask that question. Just go find the answers. So I came up here with the 1 pair of packs and the 2 pair of one-piece boots. And but I have to do a lot of tailoring, again, on the right one. But there's plenty of room inside there to do that. In fact, you can see this one's almost a little weirdly shaped because I have had to stuff different stuff in there. But there's enough room in there for you to do that, to really contour your feet. I always like to say equipment is designed to fit the 80th percentile of people that'll be using it. This boot is probably, for me anyway, has given me more opportunity to tailor this boot and fit this boot to my foot than any other one has. But let's just talk about a generic one-piece boot. The brand doesn't matter. The 2 main things is the way they're built and the option that you have to put a liner in there or what have you. So let's just dig in here and see if this boot has had any modification done to it. I know I left that one empty, but I'm just going to pull the liner out of this. So every night you come back from fishing, every night when you come back from fishing, you pull your liner out. I know I make things look difficult. So here's the inner lining. And yeah, I don't have anything inside that one, but I probably have an extra liner down in here. Yep, extra foam liner. Give myself a little extra warmth, but still not enough where it's pushing my foot up onto the top of my foot where I have those issues. Yep, there's one of those heel lifts to just help bring the back of my foot up, and then the original liner piece of felt that comes in there. I think I removed that when I replaced it with that. But you can option these boots out any way you want. And if you have two pair, then, you know, when I'm fishing from home, having two pair is great because I don't even have to bother with my boots at night. If I got a guide trip the next morning and I'm running late, I just put the other pair on and wear them the next day. And my lovely bride, Cindy, well, let's face it, I would never ask her to dig into one of my boots after a day of ice fishing with it. She means way, 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 way too much for me. But again, lots of room in these things where you can tailor them to your particular needs. And some of the things that I've had to use to do just that, different socks. I can totally get by with wearing just one heavy sock because I know I'm going to dry everything out and go new the next day. I used to be a real big fan of the lightweight liner sock, as well as then the heavier boot sock. And Clam makes a great option. They make the liners, they make a heavy duty boot sock. And these are like, I mean, this is music for your feet, these particular socks. But then I'm also always looking for a little different felt lining for the bottom. This one has the reflective material. Maybe just a standard work insert. You'll see here, you know, this is a good liner. These are those Montrail liners where you warm them up in the oven and then you go through the process of standing in them and allowing them to form to your feet. These are more for me, for my hiking boots and my tennis shoes and stuff in the summertime because of the narrow width. They just don't take up a lot of space in these wider boots, and you'll find your foot can be sliding around and that sort of thing. But all things that I have done and do to custom tailor my feet to the boot rather than vice versa. And I honestly feel that that's the right way to do it. Again, I wanted to share that you can get extra liners, especially for the walking packs. You can get 2 different weight liners with the Thinsulate rating. This one here, the one that came with the boot, this is a 200 gram Thinsulate lining. And then the ones I actually have in the boot, this is a 600 gram gold insulation. So if you're shopping for a new pair of boots or an extra pair of boots, so many options out there, and it just seems like every year we're shouting from the rooftops about these one-piece boots, the Clam Sub-Zero and the Norfin boots, and yet people are still out there wearing traditional sorrels or less. Kind of like I mentioned the other day in the videos that I did for the outerwear, there's just no reason to not understand the concept behind construction of boots and bibs and parkas, and to utilize the same items that the manufacturers and the designers do so that you get the maximum benefit out of that hard-earned and hopefully properly spent money. So there it is, the boot video. Any questions? Let me know. Let's share some successes. What works for you? What doesn't work for you? So everybody that's watching this channel are not just being entertained, but also educated.